Hello, everybody. My name is Rosie, and welcome to Turn On the AC, a podcast where we talk about what it is to be an Asian Christian creative navigating through life in today's modern society. We hope to create community, inspire, challenge, and encourage our fellow creatives with each episode. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Turn On the AC podcast. I am so excited and I am so stoked because this has been placed in my heart for the longest time. It was always just a thought filled with a lot of doubts and questions, but now it's finally here and it's actually happening. And I have just been so encouraged by all of you guys who have been encouraging and supporting this podcast even before the release of the podcast. And so I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has been anticipating this with me. I've been praying that God really uses and speaks to you guys through these episodes that you guys are going to be listening to in ways that you need to hear them or feel that wow, you can relate to some of these people here. And so everyone on this podcast, all of the guests are inspiring to me. Like they inspire me to create even more. And so with that, I just pray and hope that you're also inspired to continue to use the gifts that God has given you. And so at that, this first episode is going to be an introduction to who I am and how I became a creative and my creative journey, and also more information about what Turn On the AC is, what's it about, the name behind it, and how you can get involved in this community that we are creating together. So with that, my name is Rosie Xiong. I am based out in Kansas City. I am a full-time video editor for Hallmark. And yes, it's the Hallmark that makes a super cringy Christmas movie and has tons of cards for any and every occasion. I also do a lot of freelance on the side, so I do wedding videos. I work with different videographers in editing things, and just picking up a lot of side hustles and side jobs. I love helping out others, and when they believe in my work, I just want to help them create the best thing for them that tells the story, to help others see their story and to feel what they're feeling, to convey those emotions. But it definitely wasn't easy getting here. It was very challenging. It took a lot of compromise. It also was a lot of highs, a lot of lows, a lot of questioning God as to what am I doing here? What is my purpose? Is this even for me? And so with that, I'll begin with me being in high school, a senior. So during my senior year of high school, I wanted to be a teacher missionary abroad. And I really felt like this was for me. I loved kids. I love working with kids. And I felt like that was an important phase in our lives, the childhood development part that really helps us to grow into being better people, which it is, and I still stand by that. But I really thought that that was for me. And so I applied for a Christian college called Toccoa Falls, and I applied for their scholarship that would pay for 4 years. And so I got accepted, and I felt that everything was for me. And then I go there, and I feel really, really confident. I'm connecting with the students there. I'm connecting with the people that are there. I already know some of my friends that go there, a lot of my older friends that went there, and I felt like I was answering all the right questions and doing all of the right things. And so I came back home confident that I got this in the bag, and I was gonna go there. My life was gonna be set. I was gonna be a teacher missionary, and then a couple years I'll be abroad in Asia or wherever God wants to take me. And so when I came back home, I got the call that I didn't get it. And I remember just crying because I had no idea what I was going to do next. For so long, I thought this was where God wanted me. And so I remember just talking to God, and it was just a lot of just expressing my emotions. I remember telling him that I didn't understand what he was doing, that I thought he was leading me here. And I asked him, why did he lead me here if it was just going to be another door closed? Because in high school, I wasn't the brightest student. I wasn't very good at math or science, but I excelled well in arts. But with that, I didn't really get a lot of scholarships, and I also got rejected to a lot of schools that I applied to. And so the only option left for me that could financially support me in going to college was community college. And so I decided to go to community college, and that was the last thing I wanted to do. But I'm so grateful that I was able to do that because I got to be able to serve at my church and to grow closer to my friends down here and to have memories with my family. But that's another story. And so, with going to community college, I had no idea what I wanted to study anymore. I just knew that I had to keep going and I had to have faith that God was going to provide for me. And suddenly for church, I remember people making like short film skits. This was when like Wong Fu and Jubilee, when they were making short films, was at the top of their game, with making like really sentimental short films that had like stories, characters. And so this was really popular back then in the 2000s. And so a lot of churches started doing that as well and just telling kind of like cheesy parables or stories to convey an event. Or if they had an event such as a conference, they would make like short films for them. And so I remember writing a script and also working on projects at church and making videos at church, and they turned out really well. And there's a lot of affirmation in that, and I really enjoy the process of just creating a film and seeing the end product of it from just an idea to actually being something that you can see in real life. And so I got a lot of affirmation in that, but then I also really loved the idea of movies. And I honestly just loved how movies brought my family together. Every night or every Saturday night, we would all come together in the living room and we would pick a movie to watch. And that was how we spent our time together. So it wasn't like going to the park or having family trips, but it was just watching a movie together and talking about it afterwards or researching it, or even a series. We would research it and just talk to each other about it. And so I loved that idea and I wanted to go into the film industry. And so I remember when my 2 years of community college were ending, I told my dad that I wanted to do film as a career. And I remember him telling me no. And I knew that his no was for a good reason, because he told me he didn't believe that the film career would be able to provide for me financially. And I could see that because at that time, like, I didn't even know anybody who was in the film industry, but I knew that this was what I wanted to do and what I wanted to learn more about. And so I remember telling him to just trust in me, to trust me that I will succeed because I'm confident in myself and I know that I can and will do it. And so he still said no, but I was like, okay, let me compromise with this. Let me find a solution that could benefit both of us or work for both of us. And as I was doing research, I found about the communications major. And basically, a communications major is really broad and you can do basically anything with that, but you could also take film classes. So when I went to college, I took all of the film production classes that I could because I really believe that it's more important to show what you can produce than what you know. Even though it's really important to know history and the background and the reason why it was created, but I just felt like at this time I wanted to build my resume, my portfolio, in order to actually get a job and an internship. And so during that time, I was looking for a job that was in my field. And I believe I was on Indeed and I saw that this wedding company was looking for a graphic designer. And so I applied because I knew a little bit about Photoshop, but I was like, why not? Like, let's just do it. I've always been a risk taker and I've been very bold throughout my life. So I thought the worst they could say is no. But they actually reached out to me and they're like, hey, you actually don't fit the qualifications, but we're actually looking for an intern. And when I heard that, I was even more ecstatic because this is exactly what I needed. So at my college, you actually have to have an internship before you graduate. And so luckily I was like, this is awesome. I already have that down, and I'm learning so much about the wedding business, about editing videos and creating stories. And that job really taught me so much about Adobe Premiere and the editing process and creating intricate stories, having voiceover and music. And so I'm so grateful for that job. But it also opened up a lot of opportunities in how I landed my job at Hallmark, being a video editor and continuing to honing my skills outside of work was something that helped me get that job as well. And I remember being at a party and my dad was introducing me to my uncle. And my dad was telling him about what my brother was doing and how he was proud of him. And then he tells him what I'm doing. And then he says that he's proud of me. And I just remember tearing up as I heard that, because to me it meant so much to hear how proud my dad was of me to be in this field and to do what I was doing and to say that he was proud of me, because I remember him telling me no. But the thing is that even though my dad said no, like, I'm so blessed with having parents who were so supportive. Like, although they weren't down for it being my career choice, they supported it as a hobby. And then when I showed them that I had a full-time job and that I could get money from doing this, then they really were on board with me creating and becoming a video editor and then doing this full-time. And so that's my story on how I became a creative. But to sum it up, God opened up those opportunities and He opened up those doors and He gave me such amazing parents to worry about me, but to also still support me, even though they weren't sure where this was leading. And to be honest, I still don't know. I recently had a conversation with a friend I made, and she was telling me that God doesn't just call us to this one thing. And I thought that was so powerful because for so long, I thought that video and creating was my one thing. But I'm realizing now that God calls us to so many things. So although we may be good at this, He still calls us to love and serve, and that this one thing does not give us an identity. And that's my creative journey. And from there, God has been continuing to open up so many amazing opportunities. I was able to be an assistant director for 8 Parables on the film Dirty Laundry. And if you guys don't know what 8 Parables is, I talk about it a lot on my Instagram, and it will also be talked a lot about on here as well, as it's been such an important stepping stone in my life, but also because I've gained so many new friendships because of 8 Parables. And for those who don't know, 8 Parables is a retreat for creatives that allows them to create a short film that represents aspects of the gospel. And so it's a really great process as you get to dive deeper with those around you to create a short film. You also get to see the pre-production part, so the brainstorming, the thinking of the shots, and just getting to know the other scholars. And then you also get to be on set and you get to film and work with them, and you get to also see the post, so what they do after with it, and just being able to share the short film that you worked on. And so 8 Parables was such a great experience for me because, again, it opened up so many new relationships that God was showing me, because as I was listening to their stories, I was like, wow, like I wish I had this community growing up that was telling me that I can be a creative for Christ and that I can do it as a full-time career. Or if not a full-time career, I can continue to create because God has given me those gifts. And so with that, I took that as my fuel to create more. And that's how Never Too Much began. And so Never Too Much really began in quarantine, as I needed a break from editing all the time because I was working remotely at home as a freelancer. And so it was constantly videos every day, and I needed a break and I needed to breathe. And so I went back into creating, but in different ways of creating. I started creating paintings on shirts, things that I thought that were just really cute. And so when I started posting it on Instagram, a lot of my friends were so encouraging that they wanted to buy these pieces. And I was so amazed because I really didn't think anyone would want to buy them. But with so much support, I thought, why not go and try this? And so that's exactly what I did. And from there, it just sort of evolved into Never Too Much. And so Never Too Much focuses on selling apparel items such as embroidered tees and embroidered hats. And we are slowly working on getting more items in the store. I am taking a break from Never Too Much, but it's always open and there is still more product there as well. But I'm just kind of taking a break so that I can work on rebranding and new products that I want to release for the second drop. And so, yeah, if you want to support Never Too Much, and if you're interested in knowing more about Never Too Much and 8 Parables, I'll link everything down below in the description. Now, you may be asking, why a podcast? Um, so podcasts I know have been getting really popular this year, especially with quarantine. But for me, I started listening to a lot more podcasts because I was really tired of watching videos. When you edit videos day in and day out, it's so hard opening up Adobe Premiere. And that's just my personal experience, but I really wanted to break, and I also wanted to listen to something when I was doing dishes or doing laundry, cleaning the house, and I wanted a conversation where I felt like I was learning instead of just watching something. But I was really curious if there was a podcast that focused on Asian Christian creatives. And when I was looking around and doing research, I couldn't find one that really focused on just Asian Christian creatives. And so that struck a light bulb in my mind. And my brain started working. And so it was a while before I actually even messaged them. I wanted to brainstorm a bit. I wanted to do more research about it. I wanted to find a good name for it as well. But I was really worried that no one was going to listen to it or that no one wanted to be on this podcast. But the more I thought about it, the more I prayed about it, the more I talked it out with other people, I just found it so encouraging. And it made me want to create it even more. And not only that, but I want this podcast to be the start of creating a community that can support, connect, encourage each other to continue to strive towards God's kingdom and the gifts that He's given you guys. And so this is the reason why Turn on the AC was created and the main purpose behind it. It's something I wish I had growing up, and I think it's super encouraging to hear someone's struggles, but to see how they prevailed or how they're handling a struggle right now. And it's also really nice to know that you're not alone and that other people go through it as well. Now, the name behind Turn on the AC. So if you follow us on Instagram, you may notice that our name on Instagram is the .Asian Creatives, and that's because AC stands for Asian Creatives. And funny thing is that what really inspired Turn on the AC was something that my parents used to tell me a lot when we were younger. And especially it happens during summertime that transitions into fall. And it's when outside is cooler than the inside of your house and your parents tell you to turn off the AC. And so I know that in the Asian community, a lot of parents don't really support the creative field. And I'm not trying to bash on the parents at all because I totally understand where they're coming from. And they're coming from that perspective of just wanting the best for you. But yeah, so they would tell you to turn off the AC. But with this, I want to tell you guys to turn on the AC. So turn on your creativity. And although it is geared more towards the Asian Christian community, I do want to say that this podcast is for everybody and anybody. We welcome everybody and anybody to listen in on this. And so I hope that even if you're not Asian or if you're not Christian, that there are some things that you can take away from this and find relatable. But we really hope that this still encourages you and you do not have to be Asian, Christian, or even a creative to listen to this. So as we talk about creativity, I want to define what type of creativity we will be talking about on this podcast, because reading tons of articles about this and also just talking to people about what creativity is, I know that it can be in all different shapes, forms, and sizes. But the creativity that we are talking about on this podcast, so when it comes to conversations about creativity or even having guests, we've decided that what creativity is and what being creative is anything that has to do with creating an end product or output. So it's not only thinking, but it's also producing. So what we're looking for is, what do you do afterwards with that creative thought? Now, here's what you can do afterwards. I hope you noticed that transition. But we want you to join this community that we are creating and be a part of our family. So you can follow us on Instagram at the.asiancreatives. And if you'd like to be a guest, or if you know someone who should be a guest, please email us at theasiancreatives@gmail.com. We will have a new episode every Monday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, so you can spend your week listening to us during your commute or running errands. So definitely look forward to this. This podcast will be available on all platforms, so you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, I believe, and anywhere that supports Anchor. You can also listen and watch this episode on YouTube at Rosie Xiong. So I don't really feel the need to create a separate account for just this podcast. I kind of want to see where this goes. So for right now, the podcast will be living on my main YouTube channel. So everything I listed out will be in the description box down below, so definitely go check those out. And thank you so much again for listening to this episode. I am so excited for you guys to be a part of this conversation. Please continue to pray for Turn On the AC and that each episode will touch or encourage someone who is listening to it. With that, this is the end of the first episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. Stay blessed, fam. Thank you so much for tuning in on this episode of Turn On the AC. We hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. If you don't already, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any other platforms that you're listening to. You can also follow me on Instagram at rose.xiong and Turn On the AC's podcast on Instagram at the.asiancreatives. You can find and watch us on YouTube at Rosie Xiong. Leave us a comment, rating, and a review. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends and family. If you enjoy listening to Turn On the AC and would love to support us, you can give us a donation on Anchor. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you guys on our next episode. Bye, guys.